Hello, everyone. It's me, Liam McKinnon, the founder of Novice DMing, here to talk to you all one-on-one during the Christmas season. Hi, everybody. It's been a while, hasn't it? I have been so busy right now with doing a lot of professional dungeon master work and focusing on a lot of crazy things that have been happening in my own personal life, in my day jobs, in my daily routines, and with my improv company, Sorry Not Sorry Improv Society. And honestly, it's been a lot, and it's been something that has been really wonderful, but it has taken me away from my company and doing the thing that I really wanted to focus on with my company for a long time. I founded Novice DMing in the very beginning to focus on educating people when it came to tabletop role-playing games, to help educate them when it came to cultivating their imagination, to help them with fantasy storytelling or storytelling with tabletop role-playing games, and also to educate people in the ways of different systems. And I've been getting away, I feel, from that original desire for myself to educate people with new systems. But the reason I've also been away from it is because I haven't really been diving into a lot of new systems myself. I have been focusing a lot on Dungeons & Dragons, and I've been focusing on Vampire the Masquerade as well. So I've been moving away from that, and I kind of feel like there's a hole in my heart. But it is the holiday season, and I will tell you there is something that I just picked up that I was so happy is a gift to myself, and that when I found out about this a few months back, I was intrigued. And I was lucky enough when I was doing some Secret Santa shopping that I found a copy of this. Obviously, you know what I'm going to talk about from the title of this video. I'm here to talk to you guys today about one of my brand new favorite role-playing game systems of all time, The Walking Dead Universe RPG. Now, this system was something that I was excited about, but not just because I was like, oh, I like zombies just flippantly. I love the Walking Dead series. I love the comic series. I love the television show, at least parts of it. There's issues, of course, that are in it, but there was so much that I love, and that show was a big catalyst for me to love storytelling, love horror storytelling, and genuinely just become, I think it was my first ever real fanboy show ever. So it holds a special place in my heart. If you don't believe me, I'm going to tell you this right now. Back in 2019, pre-pandemic, I was actually diving deep in the world of The Walking Dead to find out with the comic book graphic novel issues what the best issues of the actual series were, to find out the best and worst episodes of the television show, and to really understand what I loved about the show and what I was starting to fall out of love with. For an example, these are the issues of the graphic novel that I think are absolutely 100% 10 out of 10 the best issues of the entire franchise, or series, I guess. This is the issue that I vehemently hate and is considered to me the only bad issue that the comic series ever really had. My favorite seasons are seasons 9, 1, and 4, and I've loved zombies ever since then. Not even just The Walking Dead, but I've loved Dead Island. The movie that got me to actually want to make movies was Dawn of the Dead, the original classic by George A. Romero. And when I say inspired me, I actually meant it. I made a junior high student film in film class that was surviving the zombie plague, and it is something.
Dang it! Ah! 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 Ah!
I got 100% on that. And so when I picked this up, I gotta be honest, it was kind of scary because This role-playing game could be the thing that I've been looking for since I was in junior high school. Since I was trying to make my very own movie. It could be the thing that I've been looking for to help turn that into an interactive experience for other people. And when I was studying it, I gotta say, I found something very special. In the Walking Dead universe role-playing game, you will take on the role of your own PC that is essentially an archetype, a very basic template of what a survivor could be. You could be a law enforcer, a soldier, a politician, or even my favorite one in the entire game, the kid. Essentially, creating your character out of a sense of attributes. And with these attributes, you give yourself a number between 2 or 4, or depending on whatever your higher skill is or your specialty, you can go up to 5. They total up to 13, and then you move into giving yourself skills. These skills are categorized under each of your attributes, and you can put in a number from 0 all the way to 2. If it is your specialty, you give yourself an additional 1 to that, so it could be up to 3 when you're making your starting character. From there, you flesh out your character, giving them drives, issues, talents. Essentially, with the drive, it is what motivates them to survive. Issues are what kind of are the standout problems that they could have with themselves, something that is noticeable, or just something that they're aware of as their own unique quirk. And then talents, which can give you benefits and bonuses based on how you are facing particular circumstances. The numbers given for your attributes and skills are essentially the number of dice that you will be rolling in a dice pool that you collect for certain situations. For example, my officer, Carol Kane, will potentially want to look out over an entire area to scout and see if I can notice any points of interest. With that, I would roll a wits and scout check and would roll that many number of 6-sided dice. Yes, 6-sided dice, the easiest dice to have to manage in any role-playing game. I love games that are very basic when it comes to your dice usage because as I've been discovering, as I educate people in tabletop role-playing games, the hardest thing for people to wrap their heads around are different types of dice. We have been inundated with Trouble, Sorry, all these very basic Hasbro games that essentially use just 6-sided dice. So when we begin to operate different sided dice, it is so confusing to us. But 6-sided dice, easiest thing in the world. For example, my character, Carol Kane, has a 3 in wits and a 3 in scouting. Now, this would mean essentially that if I am going to attempt to survey an area, I would roll 6-sided dice. And I roll them. And essentially, I look at the roll that I've made here. And the game says very simply, you want to know how you succeed? It's not complicated. You don't add modifiers. You don't have to do a bunch of math. If you roll a 6, you succeed. And you might think, okay, well, that sounds pretty easy. If you roll a 6, you're good. Well, I just rolled 6 dice, and I didn't roll a single 6. So now, in the game, I have to make a determination. I have to say, well, am I okay with this? Because I failed. I've looked out over the area, but there's nothing of interest to me, or at least maybe I'm becoming so overwhelmed with what I'm looking at, there's nothing that stands out. If you're not satisfied with that roll and you want to retry, you can do something that's called pushing it. And when you push yourself, you essentially add another die to the roll and you get to re-roll. But this die is a special die. It's a stress die. I have now 7 dice in hand. One of them is a stress dice. Ha! So now, on this attempt, I actually did roll a single 6, which is a success. The game says to you that you are able to succeed whatever roll it is you want on a 6. If you get that 6, you succeed. And that's fantastic. But with the introduction of the stress dice, which is, again, something that I love from something like Vampire the Masquerade with a hunger die, adding a unique dice in the game is the most brilliant storytelling engine ever. Because what happens is, if you roll a 6 on a stress dice, congratulations, you still succeed. Or if I was to roll a 6 in this entire dice pool, that's fantastic. I still will succeed. But if I roll a 1 on this. It's considered a term that I don't love in the game, which is called rolling a walker. What that basically means is that you've messed up. I wish it was just called messing up. In fact, for most of the games I would run, I would call it messing up. But what this means is that something bad has happened. So for example, I roll a success. If I rolled a 1 on this check, maybe I am so gung-ho about scouting this entire sector of land that we need to be able to search because I am trying to figure out if there's any points of interest. I've been home for days now and I'm stuck here and I cannot function anymore in the same place. I have to move around and I actually have to find something. So maybe I'm exploring this area and I am driving in my car, I'm exploring the area and I find something, but the second I do, a wild animal comes right in front of the car and I mishandle the vehicle. And then I start to actually careen into a ditch. This is what's so cool about the game. Your stress level could increase as the game progresses. And as you get more stressed, you begin to accumulate more dice. Now, the thing about stress is that, yes, you could get it by pushing yourself, or things in the game could affect you. It is built on the idea of actually playing your role and focusing on the stories that you would tell with the people at the table. The best way I can articulate this is not through the dice, though. It's through how you relieve stress, how you gain experience points, and how you qualify for additional talents. The first one is getting experience points. In the game, it says that you get an experience point for every session no matter what. If you get 10 experience points, you can increase the number value of a skill, or you can get a new talent. This is wonderful, but it seems kind of slow. Well, you also get to get experience points across each session for if you utilize your drive in a unique way, if you made a choice that was based on your issue, if you interacted with one of your relationships in the game, which is called an anchor. If you talk to somebody from that and make a little scene out of it, that will also give you experience points. The game brilliantly motivates you to progress by engaging with yourself and the people in the world, which in a lot of role-playing games is kind of forgotten. In Dungeons & Dragons, some people think it's just you roll dice and you get into fights and that's it. But in The Walking Dead, it's the human connections that allow you to progress. It's paying attention to what choices you are making that allows you to advance. This game doesn't have level ups, and I'll talk about that in a second, but essentially, you are motivated to interact with the world and everyone around you. You also relieve stress in this game by role-playing. The relieving of stress happens when you engage with actually, very simply, a role-playing scene. It says, if you engage in a role-playing scene, you relieve 1 stress, and you can do this once per session. You can also relieve all your stress if you speak to one of your anchors. This is so brilliant because you can interact with a player character or an NPC. So it gives you the choice of do you want to be diving into the relationships with people at the table, or do you want to cultivate a very personal relationship with yourself and the game master? When you do that, you get to relieve all of your stress, which is fantastic if you have an anchor present. And anchors are important because they help you from breaking and shattering as you buckle under the weight of the psychological strain that comes in a world where your goal is just to survive. This game is not about getting the loot or making yourself stronger and becoming a level 20 survivor. It is based on you moving on to the next day and letting everyone that you are surviving with survive as well. And the best part about this too is role-playing qualifying you for other talents. In Dungeons & Dragons, there are prerequisites that you usually have to meet in order to get certain feats. Maybe your strength score needs to be really high, or maybe your intelligence score needs to be really high, or your wisdom score is really high, or you need to be able to already wear heavy armor, or essentially it's based on your proficiencies and your statistics and your numbers, qualifying for multi-classing. It's the same way. You have to qualify based on how you look on paper. But in The Walking Dead, the way that you qualify for talents, The way that you actually get to ask yourself is like, can I get more dice for these particular things? Like, for example, being a sprinter, could I run faster? Or in my character's case, unbreaking, being someone who does not break under pressure. The prerequisite is story elements. What is the one thing that we all struggle with in terms of being dungeon masters at a table full of players? It is having someone who is a note taker. You always feel like you have to designate someone to be the person who is responsible for remembering what happened from moment to moment. But in this game, what you actually have is everyone paying attention to their notes and making notes for themselves, even if it is just to say, this is something that I experienced and it qualifies me to become an unbreakable law enforcer or a sprinting kid, someone who is actually good at running into danger and can get out safely. You become better when you engage more in risky, life-threatening situations and you remember them, because your character is marked or scarred by this, but it's not like a physical ailment or scar that you have on you. It is the scars of your campaign, of your scenarios, of your adventure. Now, that does make it seem like the goal of this game is to roleplay, but honestly, for those people who are struggling with the idea of actually like needing a goal that is more tangible, not just a nebulous idea of like, am I interacting, am I engaging, and having to have the dungeon master be the arbiter of you are not living up to your character's expectations, the actual way that you can set a goal for yourself is your haven. See, I lied a little bit. The game actually has a goal in mind, which is your community. You can set a haven for yourself that is based on only 2 attributes. Capacity, which is your ability to sustain multiple people in the same place based on food or living quarters, and then defense. How well protected is it? How well can you suss out where all the exits are, where your defenses lie, and do you have enough equipment to protect it in the events that walkers show up or humans? The game makes the haven an easily attainable thing. It's just based on capacity and defense. And then you say, well, who are the people that are at the haven? Who are the individuals that make up our community? What are the items that we have stored there? And the haven is built by you as a group. It's basically like what I love about a game called Fog of Love, where you look at your haven and you say what is a defining feature. Like in Fog of Love, where you say, what is the thing about this person that you are attracted to most, or what drew you to them? And that's what gets the story going. In this, the players build the haven together. And you also get to define the NPCs that are here. You give yourself relationships based on either who your character is, by your archetype, or based on when you're interested and motivated in exploring. You get to create this haven together, and it's really you all making a home. You don't just have to be a homemaker to be that kind of a character. And as you build this community together, you protect it. And what's really cool about it is that while you're building it, you're also aware of the issues that surround it. Yes, your haven has issues too. The issues about your haven are different from that of a person, because while you as a person might be someone who's, like, as my character Carol Kane is, a stickler for routine, maybe your haven is struggling from the idea that you're low on food constantly, or there are scavengers that you see surrounding the area daily because you're in a high population area. And so you have to hide so that nobody is aware that you've made this place a home for yourselves. And you don't want them to be scavenging or raiding your group. Your haven also consists of rumors that are introduced by NPCs. The people bring in ideas. Maybe somebody is suggesting that there's a safer place that you could all be, and you're all trying to look for it in different parts of the world. Or another rumor is that maybe a NPC is going to be leaving the group and taking supplies with them. This creates a situation where you're paying attention to the lives of the characters that you've helped introduce in this world and actually want to engage with. And the game master's job is to be introducing challenges to all of you, based on the issues that are presented. An example of all of this is the haven I've built for my own personal group of survivors here. This haven is essentially a strip mall area that's also neighboring a office building that used to be like a medical center where people could go for like private checkups and stuff. This area is essentially set up in a way that we have been able to designate a small quarter block of it for ourselves. However, we struggle because it's near a heavily populated area, so we're not really able to control it very well, and there's a lot of traffic. A lot of cars got neglected and left on the road, so there's a lot of areas for cover for people, and we can't really see a lot through sight lines. If anybody was trying to sneak up on us, they could do it. And in this game, as the game master, I set challenges based on the environment and the characters that I introduced. For example, one of the things that we have here is not enough functioning cars for everybody. That particular challenge is something that I can let people know about as saying, yeah, this is just a problem you guys have with this place. And it motivates interaction. If we don't have enough functioning cars for everybody, then that means that players are going to start looking for cars that could work. There's a lot of cars that are blocking the area, and maybe one of them's got gas, and maybe one of them's not too heavily damaged. It can actually be effective for all of us to start doing runs. And that means that we also don't have to burden the one player, like the one NPC that has a car for themselves, because we're always going to poor Hank and asking Hank if we can borrow his car and borrow his car. And Hank's not a person who's really, leading the group. So maybe Hank feels a little bit of resentfulness for this. And so, again, that introduces a new challenge to the game. How do we keep Hank happy? Or how do we get gas for ourselves so we can utilize multiple cars or just even utilize Hank's and repay him for whenever we go on a run? The Haven also introduced the concept of an end game. Now, this is cool because an end game doesn't mean when the campaign will end, but it's a scenario that could happen. It's the idea as a game master that you are thinking about what could potentially go down based on the different personalities that you have. In my example, I've made a place that is reliant on one particular individual named Lieutenant McIntyre. They keep this whole thing together. Well, Lieutenant McIntyre is kind of where the end game lies. If a lot of things begin to affect him negatively, then he might up and leave the group or pick us all up and try to get us away from this entire place altogether. This creates a situation where I, as the game master, can let people know how important Lieutenant McIntyre is to the overall makeup of this community based on how I frame presenting tasks. It's not me telling them how the game is going to end, but it is me telegraphing them, you should be paying attention to this individual because what they think of you and what they think of everybody else is important, because the game is structured, at least in my mind, on how they perceive the events going down. And all of this is motivating you to go out into the world to scavenge, find supplies, equipment, maybe even trying to find new survivors that could help you with this. Maybe you're doing a help wanted sign around town. And ultimately, it's getting you primed up for when your characters die. See, the interesting thing about this game, having a 6 be the necessary result, that's all well and good when it comes to working on projects, but ultimately, in The Walking Dead, what is the biggest thing that we're focusing on? In any zombie narrative, what's the biggest concern that we have? Well, even junior high Liam knew that in a zombie storytelling, the thing that you're most afraid of is losing your life. And that you're afraid of what will happen after the world has torn itself apart and you're surviving for some reason. But what is that reason? When your system relies on you having a 1 in 6 chance of succeeding and just trying to build up as many possible dice to just hopefully get one success, just one, that's all you need, it puts a lot of pressure on the game. It puts a lot of pressure on you to say to yourself, I need this. I need to survive. I need to work in order to get these outcomes to succeed, because just one success is all I need to get through the next day, the next event, God, even the next hour. That's all I need is 1-6. Or 2 or 3 if the game master is a total jerk, but 1 success is all I need. And there is a number of variables that make that so complicated for you. And this rolling 1 success is already difficult enough. What makes it even harder is the fact that you react after the NPCs go. So if you're in a fight with a rival faction or like villainous NPCs, or if a walker springs out from some random spot, like a hidden spot underneath a car or a closet, you are reacting to their successes or their actions. And it really makes it complicated when you face death. You may have remembered a video that I made that was focused on the idea of finding a role-playing game for you. When I made that video, I was talking about one particular role-playing game that I loved when the original edition of Dungeons & Dragons wasn't of interest to me, and that game was called Chill. Chill is a horror role-playing game that is very old school, where essentially you roll percentile dice, compare it to a number on a chart, and see if you succeed or fail based on that. The higher the number, the worse it gets for you. You want to roll as low as you possibly can in order to succeed because it increases your percentile difference, essentially. The problem with that game is that it was so focused on investigating multiple different horrors. It was so busy with the idea of being an investigator, focusing on like every single thing you're trying to do to help your organization root out evil spirits and monsters all across the world. And it was so complicated for you to have to build these characters and then do math multiple times over. And being able to fail in that game really sucked, because if you failed, it's because, I feel like I haven't found that one crucial piece of information, and it kind of felt unfair. And when you were building a character, sometimes it was based on the luck of a die if you actually got enough skill points to give your character any possible skills whatsoever. If you didn't, you kind of felt you were screwed, because all you had at the end of the day was the hope of higher number values. And that was it. It was rough. And Chill is a game that I liked because of the severity of it. But even with that, I would then lose a character and I would have to remake a new one. And that sucked because it was all random. It was all random because the chart had this major scale of, if you get in a fight with a creature, you could either lose 6 hit points or 60. That was how crazy random the game could potentially become. The Walking Dead is actually just as random, because what happens in the game, you have a very clear number of hit points, similar to Chill, where you can sustain a certain number of injuries before things get bad. In The Walking Dead, it's more intense here. It's 3 hit points. You go from unharmed to bruised to battered to broken, like that. If someone's carrying around a rifle, they shoot you, and then it adds more damage based on numbers of successes. So if you're in a combat situation with somebody, and they roll a 6, and you roll no successes in a firefight, essentially, you take 3 points of damage, and you go from unharmed to broken like that. And the result is a random roll on a table to see how severe your break is. It could be as simple as the gunshot hit you and now you're winded and it's not lethal, but you're just like exacerbated for a little bit. Or you could have a ruptured aorta. Or you could go into a coma. That bullet hit you so bad that you blacked out and you need to be hooked up on advanced medical systems in order to keep yourself alive. That's it. That's how random this could be. Again, all based on D6. What did I roll right there? Fantastic. My ear got shot off. That's what just happened. I got shot and my ear flew off my body. But that's nothing compared to the walker attack table, because walkers attack you randomly too. But with walkers, aka the zombies, you are in a situation where it's even worse for you, because unlike when you get shot or attacked by a human, there may be a chance you survive it. Is it a fair chance? Not necessarily. It's all given up to fate. But there is a chance, because you could have characters who could cure you with basic or advanced medical equipment. With a walker, it works like this. I rolled a 62. Imagine if you are attacked all of a sudden because you're trying to charge up to a walker to stab it with a spear by a weapon, like with a weapon that you've improvised. You go to attack it and you miss, and you try to push yourself and you miss again, exposing yourself to a walker attack. With a 62, as you grapple with a walker, you fail to notice another walker on the ground, reaching for your leg. It takes a huge bite out of your calf. You fall screaming as both walkers overwhelm you. You've lost a fatal amount of blood before you hit the ground. That's it. That is how random it gets. You went to just stab one single walker and you failed, and the walker attacks you, and now there's two, and you're dead. There's no 3 levels of health to this. That's the Walking Dead universe. That's it. You're in it now. One of the things that I think is so important is sometimes people talk about like the Walking Dead universe doesn't need to be a Walking Dead world. It could be any zombie story. But there's different kinds of zombie stories that have existed throughout the centuries. George A. Romero defined The Walking Dead, or defined zombie stories as we modernly know it. But in The Walking Dead, it expanded on it even more. Because George A. Romero's stories began to kind of evolve. The zombies began to evolve. In The Walking Dead, they deteriorate. The world is deteriorating. That's the sensation you get with this. So when someone dies, when you feel you're locked in on that situation between a human and a walker, a situation of deterioration could happen. Things could end on a single roll of the dice for you. And what can you do? Nothing. You can do nothing. You just have to accept that you are going to die now. And what I love about this is what it means for a character who's going to die. First of all, maybe you don't die from a walker. Maybe you have to amputate your limb that's been bitten. Maybe that one walker that bit your calf was it. You got to get rid of the leg, and you got to try to save this person. So it's like a rolling of the dice to see if the infection is cleared out safely. But if your character does die, who do you think you get to play as next? Maybe you roll up a brand new PC, and maybe you do it so quickly. Again, that's why I love this. It's nice and quick to make a new character. All you got to do is get an archetype. You got to roll up, not even roll up stats. You just simply write the stats on a sheet and you're good to go. Or you play as one of the NPCs in your haven, one of the people who stayed behind while you went on a run. And then they hear about what occurred. They hear about what happened. And maybe that NPC was your anchor. Maybe that person was somebody who was your lover, your best friend, your brother, your sister, your mother, your own child. Having to hear that you are gone. And another brilliant thing about the role-playing aspect of this and rewarding you is that the next session, when that player has died, when that character is gone, you can be rewarded by writing a memoriam, by writing basically a small monologue saying what that person meant to you, for good or for ill. Because maybe that person that was bitten by these 2 walkers was an asshole, and we don't miss them. We don't care about who they were at the end of the day. It is brilliant. It is so exciting and intense. I love this game so much, but the best way for me to articulate how much I love it is by me sharing with you all a playtest scenario that I did with myself. So the scenario that I made for myself was a basic Walking Dead scenario. Let's try to go into the prison. The prison was a place that we wanted to go to because we wanted to know if it would be safer for our group to stay there as opposed to where we were originally. I had 4 characters made up. I had a politician, I had a homemaker, I had a doctor, and I had a kid. The kid is the kid of Lieutenant McIntyre. The doctor is someone that Lieutenant McIntyre is actually suspicious of because they're probably stealing medical equipment, and they are. And then the politician is someone who's trying to remake their image after the world has fallen apart, and the homemaker is someone who just wants to make this place better. They're also the lover of the doctor I have. So we have already an interesting dynamic going on with this group. Now, I don't know how many people are watching this video that have watched the Walking Dead TV show, but in the situation of taking the prison there, it is a group effort. It is a process where they systematically move through the place across 2 days, and it even lasts even longer to try and actually clear the whole place out and secure it. My group did not have the level of success that Rick's group had. In fact, there were 2 walkers that I'd set up outside of the prison. And also, this map is something that is from the Walking Dead board game, the prison expansion, so it was the perfect thing that I could use. This map is also an example of how you could structure combat scenarios, because the way that the game works is very, very open for you to be like a short range, long range, and extreme range, and weapons are very easy and malleable to function within this range. Again, it's very, very low crunch for that. You're more focused on the activity and the role playing, which I love. 2 walkers are outside. We kill one of them with a bow and arrow, which doesn't attract the attention of any other walkers, but 3 different people fail to kill the other walker. And I roll randomly on the walker attack, and what happens is I roll a result that causes my politician to get their kneecap bit off. Great. We're outside of the prison, the adventure hasn't happened, and our politician, who's the only person that has an assault rifle, has been bit. Great. Fantastic. That's the beginning of our session. Also inside of this prison, we notice there's a lot of zombies and a group of, let's say, scavengers who have gone into this prison in different places. They've split up. One of them is by themselves, and the rest of the group is like in one area. We clear out the courtyard, but now the politician is like trying to find a place to go. So we try to go on this like watchtower, but they can't make it. They actually fall, and because they mess up on their roll, and now their bit off knee is in a worse shape. So we say that the politician needs to stay outside, maybe can like keep watch of everything that's going on, and the rest of them will go inside. They go into the prison. The doctor stays kind of put between so that they could maybe run out to help them in case things get bad, or they can dive down deeper to help out the rest of the group. While the other group goes in, and this girl, Arabelle, she is like a teenager who wants to impress her dad. So what happens is she runs through an entire hallway to get the attention of a bunch of walkers, then chucks a Molotov cocktail, incinerating them. It's impressive, and she does it because her drive is to do something that would impress her dad. She clears out this whole hallway full of walkers by herself. They find one of these survivors. Now, they are hoping to sneak up on them and maybe to interrogate them, but again, they mess up. They fail the stealth roll. And this survivor is so on edge from having to kill a bunch of walkers by themselves that they start shooting at them. They miss, but now it creates a conflict between these 2 groups. That other group, by the way, couldn't push deeper into the actual prison, because when I was rolling as a game master to see if they succeeded in unlocking and pushing past different rooms, they failed. So they go back out from where they entered the prison and into the courtyard where the politician is. They don't know what's going on, but they see these people, they're armed up, and they're kind of paying attention to this politician. What she does, she takes a Molotov cocktail, stealthfully lights it, and chucks it at this group, pushing herself so she can hit them and doing enough damage that they are burned but not killed. This group has a dog, by the way, that rushes towards the politician, misses her, but then the rest of them unload and kill her. Now, she's already sustained that broken bite, so essentially, when she gets hit again going past broken, she's dead. The doctor, who's that thief, by the way, notices that the group is going to be entering inside of the prison to search and see if there's anybody else, because that person wasn't out there before, and you don't just leave your group. That doctor goes in, warns the rest of them, and then they go, okay, well, we can't take on 4 heavily armed guys and a dog. We need to figure out what to do. So that thief uses their abilities to pick a door that's been locked after listening in and hearing that there are walkers on the other side. They pick this lock, make sure that the door is able to functionally open, get the attention of the walkers as the other group is making their way down. They hide at the back of this hallway, and as the other 2 out of these 4 people come to ambush the group, the door opens with walkers, and now these guys are trapped on 2 sides of a hallway. Walkers on one side, and our fellow survivors on the other. One of them tries to shoot at the survivors, and the other one gets overwhelmed by walkers, completely missing all of their dice rolls. They shoot. They fire. Arabelle gets hit, and her bones split inside of her ribcage. That's the random roll that happened when she broke. So now she's holding her side. She's very ineffective when it comes to actually firing, but she's also their best combatant. Now, the homemaker named Gavin decides to try and fight this person. They get into a melee and they fail. The doctor, then, who's not very physically strong, takes a risk, grabs the person, and throws them at the walkers and succeeds. And now the walkers are feeding on these people. They've created a barrier of bodies to slow down the walkers, but they do not have the ability to kill all of them. So they try to make an escape down one particular route. Gavin is the only person who's healthy or capable enough to force their way through. So Gavin, he pushes his way through. And on the other side are walkers. Gavin fights them, kills it, but also messed up. They're so stressed. The stress has built based on their interactions, based on losing a member of their group, based on getting shot, witnessing people get broken and wounded. Gavin gets bitten in the stomach. There's no coming back from this. Gavin's not dead, but will die from the infection. But they still got to push on. There's still another 2 rooms they got to push through. They push through one. There's more walkers waiting for them in the cell blocks. And they try to fight them off. And they fail. And Gavin, once again, gets bitten. By one, by another. I literally rolled in the same spot, by the way, on the random rolls. So it gets bitten in the stomach again. What's so cool about that system is that Gavin does kill these walkers as they bite into him. He kills them. Like he's a hero at this moment, but is being torn apart. And there's still 2 walkers left. Arabelle, a young girl, is wounded. The doctor cannot force their way out. So Gavin says, try to run. Get out of here. Gavin fights the other walkers as they overwhelm Gavin. What happens next is that Dr. Abel Fellman and Arabelle run to try to get to the exit. They can't force their way through cleanly, so Arabelle smashes into the door on her bad side, pushing her injury further and immobilizing her essentially from being effective at all. Smashes in outside. Now they're trying to run stealthily, but they mess up so that this means that the survivors out in the courtyard that have been waiting for them before find out that they're there. They send off a dog to go chase after them as the one survivor is chasing and about to aim up at them with a gun. Before they fire, though, Gavin runs out and tackles that survivor. As Gavin tackles them, the dog goes chasing, and Gavin and this one scavenger fight each other. They try to shoot Gavin as Gavin's on the ground, and their gun is out of ammo, they realize. So Gavin gets another chance, but fails on the melee combat, and then this survivor succeeds and stabs Gavin to death. As Arabelle and the doctor flee, Arabelle is in no condition to fight. The dog is chasing them. But what the doctor has is a rifle that Arabelle passed off to them that was taken when Gavin and Arabelle first faced off against that scavenger that was alone in the prison by themselves. The doctor aims up and fires and kills the dog. Arabelle and the doctor flee the prison. Arabelle is wounded, so what happens is they set down and start to mend, and the doctor goes to work to mend the wounds because it's a basic injury and can work that because they have a basic injury kit. I rolled 10 dice for this because the doctor can roll 8 dice and then has the equipment to be able to get a bonus. In this exchange, they are so stressed I decide to have a social role-playing situation where the doctor talks to Arabelle. Arabelle's relationship with the doctor is spying on him. Her dad asked her to because he's concerned that the doctor is stealing medical supplies. There's a chance that some of those stolen medical supplies have been used to save Arabelle in this moment. And with that, Arabelle says, I don't care what you do. Just make sure you give it to the people that need it most. That is Dr. Abel's drive to save people that need it most. That's why they are a thief. Now Arabelle is contributing to the reason that Abel will survive and succeed and keep moving forward. And that motivated the next and final moment of this entire encounter, which was getting experience points for writing a monologue. Dr. Abel Feldman wrote a monologue to Gavin that was essentially saying, I wish I had a moment to be sad that you are gone, but I couldn't. I wasn't. And there was no part of me that felt guilt after the fact. I had rolled for both Arabelle and for Dr. Abel to see if they were broken from the situation, and neither of them were. Both of them were fine. So losing your lover and losing a person who is a powerful potential leader in the group had no effect on Dr. Abel. The focus, the moment that brought greatest success for them was saving Arabelle. And so that created a new issue where I wrote down for Dr. Abel, they're callous when death is on the line. That was a moment that gave a deep revelation, both as an issue for me to be able to have them as like a deeper sense of role playing, and then when I rolled to see if I gained experience points, I take what's called a double low, where I roll 2d6s and take the lower one, and I add that as a number of experience points. I rolled 2 6s, which on top of all the moments that were motivating the drive, the issues, everything that came up in the session that I had structured, that 6 was enough for the doc to get enough experience points to increase his skill or qualify again for the talent that I wrote, which was specialist quality, which a specialist quality is something where it's like the tools of your trade helped you in a crucial moment. I could have taken that, but I chose instead to give the doctor a point in ranged combat, because after losing the politician, because after losing Gavin, there's not as an effective a fighting force now. So the doctor's spending their time training for when they go on a run by themselves. That's the situation. I did write in the notes that they do qualify for a specialist, but they're going to have to keep going out in the world in order to get the experience points for that. And that's what gets you at the table. That's what gets you ready for the next session. And that's what gets you ready to play an intense survival horror game that is set in the world of The Walking Dead, or using it as inspiration. This is not a kind of game that I could, create just within the Dungeons and Dragons system. This isn't even something that Vampire the Masquerade does well, even though they have dice pools, because that game is really focused on storytelling, but still advancing your power level and being a superhuman creature, like something that's otherworldly. In this, the role-playing system is you're a normal person, and you're going to fail, and you're going to fail a lot, and you might die because of it. But that doesn't mean that the story is over. The best way I can say it is that you're not playing the Walking Dead comic series. You're not playing one protagonist's adventure. The television show is more of an accurate representation, because while Rick for the TV show was the central protagonist for a time, and it was his story throughout a lot of it, the show made the group the protagonist. It's the people. Maybe your game becomes like a Rick storytelling. Maybe one of you becomes the central protagonist, and maybe everyone's okay with that. But I'm guaranteeing you that what's going to be more interesting is the relationship with those characters. Your group becomes similar to the Atlanta group. You get your own Glens, you get your own Carls, you get your own Dales, you get your own Tyreses, you get your own Shane. You could be Shane. Oh, don't be Shane. Or be Shane. Be what you want. You can be whatever you want to be. The game allows you that level of severity and complication. And it's fascinating because of it. And because of that, I think this game is excellent. I will happily play this game. I would love to even do an actual play of this game. It is so exciting to me. It's fun. It's intense, and it's really easy to approach. This book is it's not even more than I think it's 168 pages. This is the whole game. You're ready to go. You pick this up, there's not a whole bunch of terminologies. All you got to know is how to survive. And even you might not know that 100%. You might have to be figuring out how to survive as you play. As somebody who educates people in tabletop role-playing games, I can tell you that's the core. That's the thing. How do we play the game? That's what we're focusing on. This game is awesome. This game rules. And I'm very happy I got it for myself as a gift to me for Christmas, because maybe I get to give the gift of survival horror to all of my friends and wonderful, wonderful people that I get to play tabletop role-playing games with. I don't really have much of a catchphrase here. I don't have much of anything to share with this. I just have to say that I'm very happy I got to gush for almost an hour on a new role-playing game that I adore, and I cannot wait to share with my friends and with all of you someday, maybe. We'll see. Until then, I hope all of you novices and experienced players as well have a wonderful holiday season. I hope that you all continue to bring your imagination to life, whether it's with me or with other people at other tables. And of course, I hope you take care.